friends. Look, my name is Ron Lees. I'm an international tenor. I've been in grand opera, television, recordings all my life. I'm now 81 years of age. I'm sitting here today to tell you about the correct way to sing. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And I want to discuss first of all the bane of all singers, which is breathing. Now, as I said before, I'd like to talk to you about breathing, the bane of all singers. But first of all, there's got to be posture. Now, posture is extremely important because without posture, the breath can't enter your body properly, okay? So I'm going to show you now, give you a demonstration of how the posture should be. Whether you're a pop singer, an opera singer, it makes no difference whatsoever. It's got to be done this way if you're to have success. Now, first of all, you stand nice and straight. You clasp your hands behind your head, put your head into the hands, and then you drop the hands down, and you'll notice that your chest is elevated. And that's exactly how you've got to be. And when you're breathing in and out, that chest must not fall. If it falls, you push. That's all there is to it. Now in a second, we'll get to the first way of doing it. Now, the first method of breathing I'd like to discuss is clavicular, high chest, meaning you breathe up into your chest and breathe out, right? That's the first method. I'm going to describe them in the next segment, but I want to get them down first. The second is abdominal breathing, which means you push out your stomach, like so, blow out like so. That's the second method. And the third method is the costal, which means your whole body, from the bottom to the top, and you blow out. Now, a lot of people use every one of those methods. But the method that is the best is what's called diaphragmatic intercostal, meaning the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles together. Now, a lot of people when they breathe, particularly young pop singers, take a quick breath by lifting the chest as in like that, or with the nose like that, trying to grab a quick breath. What they don't realise is if they breathe with the mouth open, they tighten the trachea, they hardly get anything at all. And if they breathe through the nose like that, all they do is tighten the nasal passages and get basically nothing. Then of course, because they can't hold their ribs out, they have to push it out. That's called the Manuli effect. They breathe in and they breathe out while they're singing. Now, I know they all do it, but it's absolutely wrong. It shouldn't be done. It destroys their voices eventually, and they have to push like hell. The vocal cords stop, close, in an effort to stop the breath going against them, and they push harder and harder and harder, believing it to be the case. It's rather like putting petrol on a fire that's got too much petrol already. Okay, so now we'll get to the support in just a second. Now I'm going to repeat myself for 1 or 2 seconds to give you the first method, clavicular, the support of clavicular breathing. The truth of the matter is there is no support. Once you're standing up, if your chest is not elevated, your ribs will collapse. Why? Because you can't hold your breath. So then you've got to push. As I said before, it's rather like putting petrol on a fire with too much petrol already. It doesn't work. So those young kids and people who are and singing out like that with the Manuli effect, you forget it. Because it will not. You can go from teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher, and you will not learn anything different because your breathing is inadequate and not correct. Now, let's go to abdominal breathing, which is the pushing out of the stomach. Now, most people call that the diaphragm, and I've heard so many people on television say, oh, you're not singing from the diaphragm, you're not using your diaphragm. Well, let me give you some information. Your diaphragm you cannot feel. It's got no nerve endings. You can't feel your diaphragm. It takes you 36 muscles to breathe. Your diaphragm included if you're breathing correctly, which means the diaphragm goes down vertically and the intercostal muscles widen laterally. And that is how you take a correct breath. The chest does not go up, the belly does not be pushed out. That's just pushing out your stomach. That's all you're doing. Your diaphragm is not there. Your diaphragm is situated under your rib cage, right round to the back. And it goes up as far as the chest, I'll call that. It goes up as high as your chest, right? Inside the body, of course. It goes down 2 inches, no more, and the ribs flare to the sides. That's how it is, like that. When this happens, the diaphragm goes down, the ribs flare to the sides, it pulls the lungs down, in goes air. Then the diaphragm becomes passive, relaxes, and goes back to its original position. That's what happens. So when you're pushing out with your stomach, thinking it's the diaphragm, it's not the diaphragm. You push out with it, and you pull in with it, trying to support your voice. Physically impossible, because there's too much subglottic pressure. It becomes too hard to sing. So therefore, the pulling in is a waste of time, and all you're doing is cutting off your larynx. Now, as we discussed before, and I hope I've made myself very clear, this is not easy. And anybody who tells you they go to a singing teacher and wants a brush up doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, the correct way to breathe, as I've said before, is not clavicular, it's not abdominal, it's not costal, it is diaphragmatic, intercostal, combined together. I want to show you something. When a man breathes, when he in-breathes and his body's full and his breath is leaving him, the diaphragm, which is the center of the page, and the 2 sides represent the ribs, are going back in like so. If you reverse that, like so, you get the in-breath of a woman that breathes indifferently to a man. The man is a 1-2 and the woman is a 1-2 together. So that's what happens. The breath going in from the man and the woman in-breathing goes like so. But the out-breath is exactly the same. Now, let's get down to tin tacks. The breath that I'm going to describe to you is not easy to do. The Italians call it appoggiare, the verb in Italian meaning to lean or to rest against. And it's done with the external muscles and the obliques of your rib cage going out when you in-breathe, and the internals and obliques of the rib cage going back when you out-breathe. Now, the object of the exercise to support your voice is to keep those 2 movements balanced so that the ribs don't come in too quickly and yet they don't stay out jammed. They stay there nice and steady. So which means when that breath is in your body, you don't push down with your abdomen or pull in with your abdomen. You don't do anything. You hold that situation. And then you should feel, when you're very, very confident at it, you should feel that your intercostal muscles and ribs are expanded, and there's a feeling in your epigastrium of fullness. That is the correct way to breathe. When I was a young man, 18 years of age, in actual fact, I was on a national television show called Sunny Side Up. And I already thought I was a good singer because I was on a national television show. And when I went to my teacher, Mr. Boyce, who was the second tenor of Benjamin Gigli for many years in Italy, who was an Englishman, he taught me the right sounds from the wrong sounds. Now, I'd like to explain that to you just for a second. The wrong sound in Italian is called col fiato. It means with the breath, which is, as I explained before, the Bernoulli effect. As in so. The right, correct way, the Bel Canto way, which really means beautiful singing, is sul fiato, S-U-L. So he taught me the right from wrong, and I eventually started to learn an aria. And first of all, you have to learn how to sing an even scale. And that was the hard part, because as I said before, the breath must be correct, the externals must be engaged of the rib cage, and the internals must be engaged on the out-breath. And that takes quite a while to master. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and it's going to take you many years to be able to do it, I'm afraid. But once you get it done, it's very beneficial, because you can. It's afforded me to sing all over the place, and a couple of places all over the other side of the world. So I've done very well, but I've had to study very, very, very hard. And anybody who comes to study with me in particular must be serious, because I don't have anybody that is not serious in my studies. So I'm going to show you now, just to finish up, an exercise that singing is the same as speaking, except that when you sing, when you go higher in the scale, you accentuate the vowel more. And you don't feel any push, any pull, anything of the sort. If you're using the Bernoulli effect, which is breathing in and pushing out, or the abdominal effect, which you're pulling your belly in and up, you're causing subglottic pressure, and you can't sing like that. You'll tire too easy. So you've got to find the easy way to do it, and I'm going to show you now in a scale how you should not do this. Now, this is col fiato with the breath. Can you hear that's pushed? The higher I went, the more I had to push down. And as I said before, it's rather like putting fuel on a fire that's got too much fuel already. Now I'm going to do it the other way. You must inhale la voce. You must pull the voice back inside you. It must not go out. A voice must not be driven or propelled or pushed. It's a wind instrument. It can't be forced. Now, correct way. No. That's a high D, by the way. Now, just to finish up, here's a little exercise. You pick a note in the middle of your voice, maybe a D over middle C, and you say the words, any words you like. I went down to the market, and then you sing it in that pitch. I went down to the market. Now you go higher, and what I'm trying to tell you is that you've got to place the singing voice high up where the speaking voice is. I went down to the market, sing it. I went down to the market. It's exactly the same. Up an octave. I went down to the market. I went down to the market. It's exactly the same. That's the exercise you should do. So you should speak it at a level and then put your singing voice in that level. And you go up as high as the speaking voice will go, and then you go higher and higher and higher with the singing voice. Now it'll sound like it goes into falsetto, but it doesn't go into falsetto, it goes into head voice. But you've got to make that head voice develop, so that as you go higher and higher, it becomes more resonant in the head. You with me? So it goes up and up and up and up. You've got to pull the voice back. Pull it back. So there's the vertical. Your voice goes like that. Back of the vertical, inside you. Now that's all we've got to say today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll be back very soon. So thank you very much indeed for your attention. Ron Lees here. If you'd like to go to the Ron Lees Master Voice Coach Facebook page, you'll find contact details of masterclasses, private lessons. So if you email or phone, someone from the office will contact you. Thank you, good luck and happy singing.